Okay, here we go, start to finish. Let's just, this is a brand new, obviously brand new Blender file. So we'll get rid of the cube, delete that. We need to add Shift A, a cylinder, and we need to change this to 3 immediately before we do anything else. So click A, click Enter to accept that. It looks a bit bad on the proportion, so let's scale the Z. So S to scale, and then we're going to hit Z to scale in the Z axis. We're going to shrink it down, and that looks pretty good. Okay, let's zoom in a bit. We're going to switch to the top view, so hit 7 on your numeric keypad to go to top, and right now it's perspective. We don't really want perspective, we want orthographic. So if you hit 5 on the numeric keypad, it gives you the orthographic view. So sometimes when you're viewing from the top in perspective, things look all wonky. This will just keep it nice and simple. So this right now is, it looks like it's basically centered in the X and Y axis. We're going to modify this a little bit. So you can either click here, or if you hit, I think it's N, yeah, N, this will show us the location of our object right now, which is 0, 0, 0, which is what we want. But I want to move this, so by default I can just start dragging this down. And that's going to move it in the Y-axis. Zoom in a bit more. That looks like it should be pretty good there. Keep in mind that we're going to be rotating this around the center point. Now notice right here, this is the 3D cursor position. And we're going to be setting this to rotate around the 3D cursor position. By default, this is at 0, 0, 0. But if for some reason you changed it by, say if you right-clicked somewhere on the screen and it put this somewhere else, it could be a different place XY, it could be a different place Z, whatever. It doesn't really matter. What you need to do is get that back to center before you do the next step. So 3D cursor right here in the Properties tab, it's 0, 0, 0, which is where you want it. If it isn't 0, 0, 0, change it to 0, 0, 0. Okay, now with this object selected, we're going to have to rotate it around that origin point, or that 3D cursor point. But before we do that, let's punch the hole through it first. So the easiest way to duplicate something without moving it is to use the keyboard shortcuts. So don't touch your mouse, just hold down Shift, type D. Notice how the outline changed to white. That means that's your duplicate object that has to be placed. Now we don't want it to move. We want to stay exactly where it is. So just hit Enter right away. Okay. Now we have 2 objects. So I'm going to scale the first object. So type S. I don't want to scale it in the Z-axis, which is up and down. I just want to scale it in the X and Y. So if I hit Shift Z, it will exclude Z from the scaling. So Shift Z, and then I can just start scaling it in until it looks about right. That looks pretty good right about there. So click. So there we go. We've got one inside the other. I'm going to orbit up a little bit just to make this a little more clear. We need to scale this now in the Z-axis so that it's above and below. So I'm going to scale it again, and this time I'm going to constrain it to Z by holding Z. So there you can see it's punched right through. So now what I'm going to do is select the other object, the one that we want the hole in, and we'll go over here. Let's just scale this a bit so we can see what we're doing. Go to the modifier tab, add a Boolean modifier, select it to difference, and right here we want to select which object we want to use. There's only two. There's cylinder and cylinder 001, so we're going to use cylinder 001 as the object to punch the hole through, and then we're just going to click apply. That's it. We're done. We don't need this object anymore. We can just delete it. So click delete and it's gone. Now we've got it right where we want it. We've got our outside triangle shaped exactly. So we'll go back to the top view in orthographic mode, select our object, and the origin point for our object is still centered on the object. We don't want that. So what we want is we want to change the origin to the 3D cursor. So now if I click that, you'll see that it's centered right on the 3D cursor. So again, we need to duplicate this object. So Shift D, hit enter right away. That places it in exactly the same position. And now what we're going to do is we're going to change the rotation in the Z axis to 60 and hit enter. So there's our second one. Let's do it again. So Shift D, enter. This time we're going to go 120 degrees. Again, Shift D, enter. This time, you guessed it, 180. Again, Shift D, enter. 240. One more time, Shift D, enter. 300. So there, our shapes are all positioned. I'm happy with the way they look. We'll just orbit a little bit here to see. That looks pretty good. You could tweak this and modify it as you see fit. I think it's good as is, but that's up to you to decide. So now it comes down to a matter of exporting the SVG. So under user preferences, we just want to make sure that the SVG plugin is turned on. Render Freestyle SVG is there, so that's good. We can just close this window, we don't need it. And come back over here to the Render tab. I'm just going to close this. So just type N to close that off. Make this a little bit bigger. Come back here to the Rendering tab, and we scroll down. A couple of things to make sure. We want to make sure this is checked. Line thickness 1 pixel, absolute, that should be fine. This one, frame, is what we want. And mitter, I don't know why they call it mitter, it should be miter, but oh well. Under the output, let's select where it's going to go. So I'm going to put mine in my Dropbox folder. And we're just going to call this Paul SVG. No extension, nothing. The folder where it's going is going to be this folder. This is the file name. Just click accept. That's it. So now it just comes down to actually clicking the render button. Now you should see it render. It's going to render based on where your camera is set, but you can tweak the camera settings later. This is just to show that it's actually outputting the SVG. So let's check the folder. And what are we looking for here? That's my Blender folder. That's not the right folder. Where's my Dropbox folder? Here we go. So we're looking for a Paul SVG, and it should be numbered. There it is, Paul SVG 001. Open that up, and there it is. So this is the SVG output of this. So it is working. I haven't done anything odd. You may want to just start from scratch, or I don't know, it doesn't take too long to generate, so there could be a setting that you changed. Maybe that's causing something. I can't really explain why it's not working for you, but it's working for me. Doesn't really make a whole lot of sense. Anyway, hope this helps you out. Give me a shout if you want, or send me an email, whatever. Talk to you later.